Why don't we rent a video tonight?
Yeah, Kelly, please?
On a weeknight?
Yeah, come on, Mom. It's okay.
Sure. Come on. Let's throw caution to the wind.
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
Welcome to Vericon Video, a weekly show where we relive forgotten and unforgettable movies that once lined the shelves of video stores everywhere. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Joseph.
And today's show catapults us back to the Middle Ages, the year 1194 to be exact. Hey, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
What does a blind man, a corrupt bishop, a witch, a Moor, a drunken friar, Sean Connery, and Americans playing Englishmen have in common?
Man, I don't know.
Well, I actually found them all in one movie on our store shelves, one over an action-adventure that's collected a lot of dust, unfortunately. But today, we're dusting off that tape and revisiting the world of swashbuckling merry men against an epic score by Michael Kamen. That's right, today we're talking Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, so get ready for danger, romance, and a raspy rock ballad from Bryan Adams. So sit back, relax, and welcome.
Welcome to the Cafe 80s, where it's always morning in America, even in the afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I have the only gun on board. Welcome to Con Air.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Okay, good evening, America, and welcome aboard Apollo 13.
I'm so glad you could come. This is going to be such an exciting day. I hope you're enjoying it. I think you will.
Robin of Locksley escapes from a prison in Jerusalem after fighting in the Crusades and returns to England with his new friend Azim. Robin finds his father has been murdered. He reunites with the maid Marian, and then joins forces with a crew of merry men in Sherwood Forest to fight against the Sheriff of Nottingham, who in King Richard's absence conspires to take control of England. So, Joseph, when were you first exposed to this movie?
It's funny you say that because I ran across this movie not expecting, to watch Robin Hood. So I was doing an Eagle Scout project, and I was like, well, what can I use for inspirational songs? Look online, and all of a sudden pops up this huge instrumental by Michael Kamen. I'm like, what's this about? I gotta listen to this. And it was about Robin Hood, and never saw Prince of Thieves before. Listening to the whole theme, the entire wave of music with strings and brass and the crescendos and diminuendo, it was amazing. So I used that for my Eagle Scout project, because I was doing the show on theater and stage and everything, and it was just a beautiful climactic song. And so when I did that, I was like, well, now I got to watch the movie. And watching the movie, it became my favorite Robin Hood movie of all time.
You had said before we started recording that this was not your first Robin Hood.
Right. Right.
You grew up with the animated version.
The 1973 film, yes.
So I'm guessing that whenever you watched this, that you were expecting, Little John should be a bear.
Right. It's just the big guy, just like, oh, okay. or like Prince or King John being a lion or, something like that. Just
right.
Majestic creature.
And there was no King John in this version.
Right.
Interestingly enough. Although they did bring him back for Men in Tights.
Yes.
They did have King John in there for a bit. I had the VHS that I watched countless times. I had the action figures. After rewatching it for the podcast, I realized that growing up, I had almost no idea of what anybody was saying in this movie. It could have been just the mix or the transfer, but I watched it this time with subtitles, and it was kind of like watching this movie for the first time.
Right.
It reminded me of singing the wrong words to a song that you've known all your life, and then find out, oh, you've been singing this wrong the whole time.
That's like me in Lion King. I'm singing Circle of Life, and I don't know half the words. It's just kind of, it's like I totally understand.
And I was actually surprised at some of the dialogue because it was just so foreign to me. Like I didn't associate these lines with the movie I grew up with. And actually, in thinking about it more, I realized that much of the quote-unquote dialogue I remember was kind of a lot of rubbish and nonsense. Like it was kind of nonsensical. It was these sounds I remember hearing people vocalize, these characters vocalize. But then reading the actual lines in context, it's like, oh, okay, so that's what they're really saying. Like there is a part where Will Scarlet catapults Robin and Azim over a brick wall near the end. And they land in some hay when there's some chickens clucking and everything, and Will Scarlet's like, fuck me, he cleared it.
Right.
He cleared it. And I didn't know until yesterday that I knew he said fuck me, and then he cleared it. I had no idea he said that.
It's just...
Fuck me, he cleared it. But he's doing that muddled accent that's not
blends
really
everything
English.
together, kind of.
Yeah, and so it becomes almost like you can't really associate it with an American accent or British accent. It's this bizarre dialect that you kind of have to parse out in hearing it several times, I guess.
And I think that comes with a foreign accent or something that we're not used to. Because I know for exactly what you mean. For a lot of the parts in this movie, they kind of blur their lines a little bit together. And when you're watching it for the first time without subtitles, because believe me, I've become such a user for subtitles recently because of that and trying to understand everything that's going on in the movie. But especially for this, with the whole British accent blending in, it's kind of like, wait, what did they just say?
Right. And you have many American actors and Canadian actors playing English parts, and they are trying to figure out what kind of accent they need to have. Kevin Costner famously wanted to use a British accent for this movie and had hired a dialect coach, and the director was just like, you just are not doing it right. It doesn't sound right. We need you to stop it. And so I think the dialect coach was eventually fired, and he just went with his normal speaking voice, although at times he tries to inflect, these little nuances into his voice. And with the dialogue that's written for him, it just doesn't sound right in an American accent.
Right. You have to have it. It's like a gift. You just have to know the accent of tone with British or Chinese or French. No matter what you're speaking. And for Costner, it was just like he had that mojo that just didn't go with a British physique. So,
yeah.
Like, jolly good. I can't speak much, but I'm trying my best.
Oh, no one really ridicules Christian Slater for his strange accent, but it's just as bad, if not worse.
Yes.
So a little bit of background on this movie. It was the second highest grossing film of 1991, immediately behind Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Alan Rickman later admitted this in, I think, 2015 or 16, that Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was a terrible script, and he enlisted the help of his friends, comedic writers, to make some alterations to his own dialogue to improve some of the pacing, some of the delivery, the humor.
I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, and because he does have some of the best lines in this movie, I think. And it's not necessarily because they're great lines, but it's how he delivers them.
Yes, it's all about the delivery. And
his energy, the presence he has as an actor. He had a really great presence in Die Hard as the villain, much more menacing. But here we know he's bad, but he's charmingly witty, I guess. Like he's entertaining to watch and to listen to. Because you just don't know what's going to come out of his mouth next.
Right. It's very unexpected entertainment.
Yeah.
And literally, I found a lot of the time with this scene with his unknown mother that he had no idea about, that was a psychopath witch.
Right.
And realizing the dumbfoundedness of his face was so captivating when he realized that was his mother. I mean, I'm sorry, but when you talk about rolling on the floor laughing, sometimes it's appropriate because when you look at that, you're just like, wow.
And in that scene, we should mention that scene was not in the theatrical cut, but it was later restored to an extended cut.
Yes.
It was deleted footage that I believe Kevin Costner had wanted removed. Or it might have been removed for pacing or just to move the plot along, but rumor has it that he felt like Alan Rickman was upstaging him at times and wanted to tone him down in order to make himself more present.
The top role in the movie, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, after all, it's titled Robin Hood.
Right, yeah. He is the main actor. He's the protagonist. In any film where the antagonist outshines the protagonist, there's some conflict there of competing personalities for your attention.
Right.
But I like those movies where the antagonist kind of takes center stage.
It's different, and I think it grips a lot of people, because you don't see it all the time. cast.
Let's see what else we could say about this movie. We have the role of Maid Marian, which was originally going to Robin Wright, but I believe she got pregnant or got sick or something had happened suddenly.
I think pregnancy put a stop to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She got pregnant.
And they had to recast the role very, very quickly. And I believe this actress had 4 days' notice before she started filming. It's Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, which I'm trying to remember anything else she's been in. I know she is an American actress, and she pulls off the English accent pretty well, I think.
Yes, I thought she did a beautiful job.
It was very, very convincing.
She, I think she went on to debut herself in this West Side Story on Broadway, which was huge. I think I saw Scarface in 1983, where I think she's in that one because I remember seeing the cast in there. Yeah, I think she was in Scarface.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who she played. She was related. Was she related to Tony Montana?
Oh wait, Gina Montana. Yeah,
Gina Montana.
Gina Montana. Yeah.
That movie is so bizarre.
Oh yes, I can't even begin to explain.
It has some great lines, and there's always that interesting connection between Scarface and. Was it Grand Theft Auto Vice City?
Yeah. Yes.
I can't think about Scarface without thinking about Grand Theft Auto Vice City,
and
vice versa.
Hand in hand, yeah.
Absolutely, and great soundtrack, by the way.
Beautiful soundtrack. I mean, music
classic 80s, classic 80s. You know. Oh, of course. She was in The Abyss, the James Cameron movie.
Yes, I totally
that
forgot
movie
about that.
is incredible. You get her, you get Ed Harris, you get some great
the cast.
Visual effects.
It's amazing.
We should add that to our list.
Yes, I think so.
This is a lot of fun. The movie was pretty well received. I don't think Kevin Costner was praised all that much. Mostly Morgan Freeman and Alan Rickman's performances really took center stage. I believe Roger Ebert had called this film a murky, unfocused, violent, and depressing version of the classic story. The most depressing thing about the movie is that children will attend it expecting to have a good time, which I don't think, in retrospect, it's really appropriate for children.
I don't think so either. Oh, especially with the beginning and
you're
already getting people's hands cut off.
We've got that. We've got Lord Loxley. His castle gets burned. I guess he's burned or mutilated in some way and caged, hanging from a cage from the ceiling. And we've got the occult. We've got black magic. We've got a witch slicing her arm open with her fingernail.
Worshipping devils.
Worshipping the devil. We've got an attempted rape scene at the end.
Right. Yeah. He just it just comes out in the middle of nowhere. You're just like, wow, I just went from G to PG-13 to R. I'm just getting all the effects of movies here.
Exactly. And something we should talk about later down the road. I don't know if we'll have time to cover it here, but movies that were released in the 80s that were definitely not children's movies, but had children's toy lines.
Yes.
Nightmare on Elm Street, heavily merchandised
Easy.
for children. There was Freddy Pajamas, RoboCop. I had all the RoboCop action figures. Beetlejuice isn't even kid appropriate.
No, but yet it was advertised as kid appropriate.
It was, yeah, because it's lighthearted family comedies, and I had those toys too. But Howard the Duck didn't have a lot of merchandising, but I remember my parents rented that for me because it was sold as like a family film, and so you see this little cartoonish duck on the front, and he's reading a magazine with Leah Thompson's face on it, and he's smoking a cigar, and it's this epic kind of Indiana Jones font, Howard the Duck. And then within the first 5 minutes, you see duck tits. You see anthropomorphic ducks, and like they're all naked. And I remember as a kid thinking, I shouldn't be watching this.
Right.
And my grandmother, I don't think she even really realized what was going on, or that these ducks had breasts, like giant breasts, and as Howard was catapulted towards Earth. But anyway, I digress. We need to get back to medieval England now. Well, we actually start off in Jerusalem, where Robin and his friend Peter, they've been fighting in the Crusades, and they're in this Muslim prison, and they are able to escape. As they're fleeing, Peter gets shot with an arrow, and Robin promised that he'll protect his sister, Marion. Then we see Robin's father, Lord Loxley, a man bursts into his chambers and says, someone's taking my daughter, and these men in masks on horses, and Lord Loxley's like, he gets his sword and
let me take care of this.
Yeah, let me take care of that. And his servant Duncan's like, Master, stay. There is an evil moon tonight. And then, Loxley is, never fear, Duncan. Good will overcome. Trust in that. And so he
That is beautiful. That was beautiful.
And so he comes out of his castle, and then surrounding him are all these people on horseback and cloaks.
Looks like the Ku Klux Klan, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And they
Jeez.
have these flaming spears or arrows or just sticks.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell. Torches, I guess.
It's just intimidating.
It's very intimidating, and it scared me a little bit as a kid because the sheriff is there, and he takes his mask off. The wonderful Alan Rickman. Loxley just looks at him. He's squinting, through his breath, and he's like, "You."
And then you're just like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah. The sheriff's just like, "Loxley."
Yeah.
It's very in the back of the throat.
It's unique.
Loxley. Yeah.
Right.
I can't do it. Only certain words. He's like, "The king shall hear of this." And so the sheriff's like, "Join us or die." Loxley refuses and just charges rather stupidly
Into
at
the
them.
crowd.
Into the crowd with only his sword. I believe they run at him. I don't think they're on horses.
No, they're not on horses.
Because they do run at him.
Exactly. They run at him with whatever they have, like fire.
Yeah, they're just their torches,
Their
I
torches.
guess.
Yeah, and I guess they lit them on fire.
Yeah, and the sheriff just looks
Watched
on.
it. Yeah.
So, Loxley, come on.
Come on, dude. You've got a castle, man.
You've got to make some smarter decisions and not be so dumb.
Right. Let him come through the door, stand right there with your sword, and just swing at him. It's
Or just don't do anything. Don't be confrontational about it. I mean, this movie is all about fighting back and everything, I know. But there's a point in the movie where Robin makes a comment that his father felt that Robin fighting in the Crusades was a dumb idea. But here, he makes a pretty dumb decision himself.
Yes.
He gets himself killed. So Robin, he's escaped from prison with his new Muslim friend, Azim, played by the wonderful Morgan Freeman.
What a guy.
What a guy. And I like his accent here, too.
I love how he did that.
He really brings a lot of personality to this character. And he's very memorable. He's very humble, but he's very loyal. And that really comes through in everything that he says and everything he does. And so we see them roaming about England near, I believe this was shot at Hadrian's Wall. It's a beautiful place. I've seen pictures of it. It's on my list of places to go, to see this one brick wall with that lone tree. It's
beautiful.
Oh, we should mention, so there's a boy up in the tree. Yes. So this is Wolf, and the Sheriff of Nottingham's men is with the sheriff's cousin, the guy of Gisborne. They're taunting the boy, and they're trying to get him down, and Robin shows up. And the boy killed one of the Sheriff of Nottingham's deer.
Right, yeah.
And
something
so
ridiculous.
And Wolf is like, "Oh, you starve us. We needed the meat." Guy of Gisborne's like, "I advise you to move on, pilgrim. This is the sheriff's land." He's just so gravelly.
Oh, yeah.
Such an intense voice. He's a great actor, by the way. Also not British, but he does a great British accent. And so Robin tells him, "No, wrong. This is my land and my tree, and everything's in it also belongs to me." And so they have a little tiff. So they get into it with the guy of Gisborne, and we learn of his name and his relationship to the sheriff. Like, he wanted to call Robin Kevin. So like, Kevin. So Kevin tells Guy of Gisborne to let the sheriff know what happens when he picks on small children. And Wolf runs away. I think that's all that really happens in that scene. It's a fairly quick fight.
Right.
It's more of a little skirmish. And
it's basically showing us what Robin can do, and then Azim is over there praying by himself in his little paradise island on top of the hill.
It's time to renew that vow.
But it was a nice little intro to Kevin Costner's role as Robin Hood, I think.
Yeah, you realize that that he is there to take back what's rightfully his.
Right.
And to help others who are unable to help themselves.
Exactly, which was the main plot of this whole movie. It was a nice thing.
So Guy of Gisborne goes to tell the sheriff of the news that Robin Hood is in town, and the sheriff has a little lady friend with him. And
oh, yeah, I mean, kids, please be advised.
Yeah. And in conversation with his cousin, he spins around to this woman, and he's like, "Who told you to cover up?" Yeah.
Right.
So she pulls her sleeve back down. Yeah, it's a funny little moment. And we see that the sheriff has gotten a full-size statue made in his image, and he's admiring it. Before we meet Mortiana,
Oh, yes.
the witch.
She's definitely a gorgeous person to get the eyes captured on.
Oh, she's
goodness.
She is a looker, isn't she?
Very
She's gorgeous.
much,
Those eyes,
attention getter.
that hair. Oh, it gives me the willies. It gives me the willies. And so, I find the relationship between the sheriff and Mortiana interesting in that, well, later we find out that Mortiana took him in after his parents had perished or something like that, and the sheriff was told that his parents wanted him to be instructed in the the dark arts.
Right.
Funny enough.
Yeah. Ironically.
Learning how to use Wolfsbane. And so he wants to know if Robin Hood is a threat to him, and so Mortiana, gets her little black magic toolkit out, does a few little things, and she screams and throws her little pan with animals' blood and wooden tokens and stuff, and says that she knows of Robin Hood and the Painted Man with strange foreign markings, and Locksley's companion. Yeah. It's like, kill him.
You shall meet your death.
Yeah. Kill him both. And so, what happens next? So Robin is traveling with Azim. They go to his father's castle, finds it destroyed, his father dead. His father's servant Duncan has been blinded by Guy of Gisborne, the sheriff, and the witch, he says, had been watching on. So, everybody just went there for the big party to take care of Locksley Castle. And we later learn that this is part of the sheriff's big plan. So King Richard is in France. He's out. He's fighting the Crusades. Fighting the Crusades. And so, in his absence, the sheriff is conspiring to bring all these different powerful people together who are King Richard's enemies in order to rise up against him.
Right. It's an overthrow conspiracy inside Britain.
Yeah. And Locksley, I think he was kind of the holdout, so he wasn't going to give in to their little plan.
In Nottingham.
And so they rub him out. He's dead. Robin swears revenge and does this blood oath that still gives me it makes me wince, because he's got his father's medallion, or I guess it's his father's medallion. We don't really know when he picks it up, I don't think.
Appears on his chest.
Yeah. I won't rest until my father's avenged, and he takes his dagger, cuts his hand open, and he's just bleeding profusely.
Right. It's like, okay, you're not feeling nauseous at all? Are you okay?
It's like, that was a little bit much. You could have just done a Hail Mary or something and said,
or even just poked your finger like you're getting blood sugar out. Just
Yeah, you didn't have to go overboard. If you're going to be fighting a battle, you now have one good hand.
Right.
So
good luck trying to block her, with a shield or something.
Yeah, these Locksleys are not very good decision makers.
No, it's act before you think, Yeah.
Jeez. So they decide to travel to, I keep wanting to say Kevin. So, Kevin. Robin. So Rockin' Robin and his buddy Azim go to Peter's house and find that Marion is there in order to tell her that, hey, I've sworn to protect you, so let me protect you. And
that kind of went over well, right?
Oh, yeah. So there's a funny moment where one of the servants lets Robin in alone, no weapons. She says, wait here. And he finds a spot maybe 3 feet away, and he's like, right here. And she hesitates, like she's about to say, she's about to respond, but doesn't.
She's like, oh, you sarcastic asshole.
Yeah. And then a voice comes out of the darkness saying, I am the maid Marion. And he's like, oh, well, show yourself, child, for we knew each other well. And she steps out, and he has this great line that totally went over my head when I was a kid, is, the years have been kind.
It's the best.
It's his delivery, just that tiny hesitation.
The pricelessness of his face just drew me to laughter. Because you could tell he was just like, well, damn.
Yeah. Right. And he's not taking this very seriously at first, because he's being asked to turn around and all this, come into the light.
Like, do you want to see my butt? What's going on?
Yeah. Which we will later on.
Yes.
But
yeah.
And he says, am I to dance next? And so she doesn't believe, this woman we believe to be Marion, doesn't believe that he is Robin Hood. and says that Robin is dead. Robin was nothing but a spoiled bully. And then this masked swordsman appears from behind, and we'll find out is a decoy Marion. Says, as you can see, we have enough protection. And then this little fight ensues between Robin and this masked swordsman who's quite adept, quite skilled.
Yes. I was like, whoa.
It's very impressive. And then in the course of their struggle, the fighter is unmasked and we see it's Marion, who after this scene clearly needs no protection from anybody.
Oh, no.
And over the course of the film, she becomes this damsel in distress, that this very frail and helpless person. We know she can sword fight.
Yeah.
We know she can kick some ass if she wanted to. Maybe this was just an oversight in the script. I don't know. So then Gisborne and his men approach. And there's this funny little scene where Robin has this... Azim hands him this telescope, this primitive telescope. And he can see Nottingham's men appear very close, and he immediately takes out his sword.
And they're right there.
They're right there. And he takes it down from his eye, and he shakes it and looks again, and he's holding the sword out just in front of him, trying to
right there at
figure out
the camera. You know,
yeah, he's trying to figure out the depth element here. He doesn't quite understand it. This is almost sorcery to him.
I thought that was cute.
It was a cute little moment. So this kind of long and drawn out scene happens where there's a fight and there's a chase on horseback. Marion says that Azim and Robin stole her horses, and they take off to Sherwood Forest, where Gisborne and his men closely follow behind, but they won't go into the woods because they fear
the spirits.
That there are evil spirits that haunt the woods. And when debating about whether to flee and trying to decide whether to go into the woods, Robin and Azim and Duncan says, the Sherwood Forest is haunted, master. And Kevin, Robin says, either we take our chances with the ghosts or we become ghosts ourselves. And he kind of jabs at the camera a little bit before taking off. It's a very weird, overly dramatic moment. Ghosts ourselves. It's
like, all right, calm down.
The dialogue is really better. It would have been much better if it were coming out of the mouth of a person with an accent that these lines were designed for.
Yes.
And so they just don't fit. They just land really badly.
But especially with Kevin Costner and how he looks at the camera when he's sincere. It's a very captivating, oh my gosh, whoa, did you just drink some espresso 10 times over? Or, it's funny. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is. And at times, he's very reserved. He doesn't have much emotional depth in a lot of scenes.
Right.
So when things like that happen, which are very animated and excited.
Sporadic.
Yeah. It's much more, unexpected, or it catches you off guard.
Right.
And so then they come to a river. They have to cross the river.
The glorious river. Jeez.
So Robin tries to get across, and there's a booby trap, and he's strung up by his foot. And then Will Scarlett, played by Christian Slater, starts singing this little song to the tune of "The Monkey Chased the Weasel." I was thinking about this earlier today. I went and looked up when "Pop Goes the Weasel" came out, or when there was an actual record of that music, and it was from the 1800s.
Wow.
And this was 1100 something. Yeah. Which, if we want to nitpick, the English language wasn't like that in 1100. They were still speaking Old English at that time.
Yes.
Or early Middle English. So we're not going to nitpick too much, but
if we want to be picky.
If we want to be picky, it's there for us to pick at. There was a rich man from Nottingham trying to cross the river. And he's still doing this kind of sing-songy English accent, this pseudo-English accent. Beg for mercy, rich man.
Robin's just like, do you have any idea who I am?
Yeah, but he's still pretty modest about it. Because they think the other merry men show up with Little John, and they think that he's traveling with 2 servants, so he must have lots of money.
Right.
And Robin tells him, I have nothing, not even my sword. And he's just kind of sheepish about it, and he's smiling a little bit. And they tell him, you need to pay a tax. And so Little John, or John Little, he introduces himself as John Little. And we all know that in the Robin Hood mythology, his name is Little John. So they have a little moment where they explain how he gets the name Little John, because Robin's like, or should I call you Little John?
that makes him mad.
Yeah, because they've been fighting for a while. They've got these staffs, and this fight goes on and on and on. And then it's taking place in the river.
I thought that was pretty, very nicely done with choreography and how they did that whole fighting scene with the staffs. I mean, it takes skill to use both hands with a weapon like that. You know, it's a
absolutely, especially in running water on this rocky terrain,
exactly,
and to have to do all these stunts. Yeah, I thought they pulled that off very well, and the end of that fight wraps up so beautifully. I remember it more than the fight itself because Robin knocks Little John into the water, and he's thrashing about. He's like, I can't bloody swim! And Robin asks him if he yield, and Little John's like, yes! It's like, good, then put your feet down.
Oh my gosh, his face.
And so Little John stands up in the water. This water must not be 3 feet deep.
Right.
And so the whole time he thinks he's going to drown, and so he just stands up, and he's so relieved. Well, I'll be buggered.
Yeah.
So now they have a little night campfire. Robin makes a comment about Azim being passed up for mead as it goes around their circle. The guy says, oh, well, he's a savage, sire, so I'm not going to let him have some of our mead. But then Robin comes to his defense and says, yes, he may be a savage, but no more than you or I.
Right.
And then
equal.
We are equal, yeah. And Azim lets him know, well, it's not Allah doesn't permit it, so I can't drink.
Right.
So,
right.
And Little John's like, well, you're lost, mate. There's a lot of alcohol jokes in this movie. We're talking about me, talking about beer. Later when we get to Friar Tuck.
Completely appropriate for kids, by the way.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a remark about drinking beer.
Something I wish to know about after my first grade class. You know, just a homework assignment. Go see Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yeah, after class, you come in, put your backpack down, and fix a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and watch a little, little Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And so Robin is telling them that one option you have is to fight back. But these people are farmers. They're not fighters. So he starts concocting in his mind that, well, I will lead these men. I will help them in this revolution to help them take back what has been taken from them, from the sheriff and his little regime he has. And something that has kind of eluded me over the years that I recognize now is Robin's father was allegedly forced to confess that he was a devil worshiper and that he must meet God with a clear conscience or something like that.
And that was a very persistent topic in this movie.
Yeah, and it seemed like everybody knew it, though.
Right.
So even the merry men knew it. Or I think Will Scarlet brings up, it said that Robin is the son of a devil worshiper. Duncan spouts up, how dare you believe him capable, and all that sort of thing.
It was like the news headlines of Nottingham.
It was. And so it was all kind of a way of discrediting him.
Yes.
And his legacy or his birthright or
because
all of that.
I think it was a very imperative notion that Robin was this magnificent heir to the throne, after his father passed and all this stuff. And I think that one little tweak of a devil worshiper and his father is what drove everyone to be like, it gave them the motivation to pounce on Robin, because apparently he was this asshole as a kid kind of thing.
Right. He was the spoiled bully. Both Marion and her servant Sarah both use the exact same terminology. They refer to him as a spoiled bully. There's this. Well, we should also mention that we have to remember the kind of religious climate.
Oh yes.
Of England at this time. The Crusades have been taking place. We've had Azim is kind of ruffling some feathers among the merry men because as a Muslim,
which was the direct opposite of Christianity at that time. That was the conflict,
right? And that the prison that Robin and Azim had escaped from was a Muslim-controlled prison.
Right.
In this next scene, it's a morning after scene after the campfire. And this merry man, he's just stretching and yawning. And this is a detail I have remembered since I was a kid, because he's just like, And it's just this funny yawn, and it comes out of nowhere. It has no relevance whatsoever.
no meaning.
But it's comical.
Last time I watched this movie, I had my headphones in, and I had it to a very loud volume, because I wanted to hear everything. But when that scene came in, I swear my ears never forgave me after that, because it was just like this big, huge yawn. I just couldn't handle myself afterwards.
This movie does do well with punctuating scenes with humor. Even if it's just little things like this that aren't overtly comical, but they get kind of a little chuckle from the audience.
Yes. I think it's a very good a film to appreciate the unexpected laughter with, especially, when you don't want something that's so humorous that it becomes boring or so dramatic that it becomes too emotional. But it definitely has that little ring of like, ha ha ha, that's great. Or, you're with some friends out and about with the grill and some beer, and you put that on, and, yeah, dilly. Dilly. That's the kind of setting this movie brings.
It is. I found that this isn't a movie that really gets me psyched up in any way, but it makes me, upon rewatching this movie for the podcast, I found that I didn't love it as much. I didn't like the action scenes as much. It was something that I felt would be more comfortable having on in the background in a social setting. It's something that could be enjoyed leisurely and not through an analytical lens.
Right. It's not something that, you're dating someone, you're like, hey, let's go watch Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. It's not like a holding hands film. It's
not. It's when you put on Sunday morning after you've maybe had a few pints of ale the night before.
Yeah, just hungover, and you're like,
I'm going to put this on and recover.
Yeah.
So next scene is the sheriff is praised in church. We learn of the corrupt bishop. Robin shows up in a clever disguise, which is just a cloak.
Brilliant.
He looks like Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. Give him some lightning and he'll be right for the part.
Exactly. So he comes in and he finds Maid Marian, and they talk a little bit, and she says to take a bath. Her one bit of advice that she leaves him with is to take a bath.
Like, wow, I'm so glad to see you, Marian. It's such a great talk.
You stink. Like, you need to go do something about yourself. The bishop is in his private chambers, just kind of winding down from his sermon that he gave. Robin comes in, and they have a little chat. I was always a little confused about this, but the bishop was apparently in on the whole thing about Lord Loxley being a devil worshipper.
And I think that was for some money. Or money had a lot to do with it, at least.
Oh, yeah,
there was
sure.
definitely another part of that, but I think money was like 75% of the whole persuasion with the bishop.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. We later discovered that there's a big element of bribery taking place.
Yes.
The sheriff is using these treasures to enlist the help of other conspirators in the land.
Right. Because back then, I mean, if you think about it, the religious figure, especially in the medieval times, had a very authoritative notion towards the people. I mean, Christianity, granted, it was the big movement. Much like today we see these different movements of different religious groups or different movements for like Black Lives Matter or like the rainbow flag or all these different things. Back then it was for Christianity. And in the bishop, the pope, it was a very powerful figure to look at because churches were all over the place. And I think in this movie, the bishop, granted, I think that was a brilliant part of the sheriff to do that, to bribe the bishop, because once the bishop got the money, it was like, boom, boom, pow, cracking my style. I'm just going to be going all over the place, giving praise high on Jesus. But,
Yeah, right. So the bishop, I mean, whatever he says goes, or his authority has so much more weight during this time, which ultimately is how Lord Loxley's reputation was eventually dismantled because of the devil-worshipping claim. The sheriff gives Marian a dagger, this little bejeweled dagger, for her safety. And the sheriff goes to see the bishop. He sees Robin. Robin takes a dagger and pew, zaps him right in the face, cuts him across the cheek, and the sheriff starts screaming.
It's like, Like, oh, jeez.
And straight out of the classic Robin Hood movies, he grabs a rope and cuts it, and he goes into the air and climbs through the rooftop.
A miraculous escape.
Yeah.
While Alan Rickman's like, Robin!
Yeah. I will cut your heart out with a spoon.
With a spoon. Oh, jeez.
I would have thought that would have gotten a laugh out of somebody.
Oh, yes.
Like, imagine if Robin Hood had been like he just snickered a little bit, like a spoon. And so Robin steals the sheriff's horse, and there's a lot of like physical comedy here with the sheriff because
I agree.
He's running around and he slides down the hallway.
Yes.
When making a sharp turn. And then as Robin escapes with the horse, the people start laughing. And he's like, what are you looking at? And he charges at them. And something has pinned his cape down. And so it just rips as he walks away. 2 or 3 moments of good physical comedy.
I think it was just so good that they were like, let's just keep it.
Yeah, I think that not only did Alan Rickman, as an actor, make some very smart choices about his performance and his dialogue, a lot of his character is in the physical comedy or in the physicality of the character, and I don't know how much of that he was responsible for, like the cape ripping was great, or the little slide that he does, but I have a feeling that he is that type of actor that he would bring those ideas to the table. So meanwhile, back in Sherwood Forest, Robin says that he will lead the merry men. They're never referred to as merry men in this movie, but for discussion's sake, we'll call them merry men. He's going to lead these people in fighting back against those who've taken their homes. So fighting back at the sheriff. Meanwhile, the sheriff, his cheek is still bleeding, and he's sitting in a chair, and he's sitting there with Guy of Gisborne, and Guy's just kind of snacking on something, and the scribe is getting ready to stitch up the sheriff's face. And the guy's like, why a spoon, cousin? You know, why not an axe or
This was so funny.
Because it's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more. You twit.
You twit.
It's a great line.
Beautiful.
And so the scribe starts stitching up his face, and the sheriff says, keep the stitches small. And so Gisborne and his men, they take off looking for Robin, looking for Little John, come across Little John's wife, wanting to know where he is. She tells him he died last winter. And Gisborne's just like, burn it down. So he and his men burn the whole village down. And all of these people do like a mass exodus to Sherwood Forest.
Right.
I don't know how they find it exactly, but they all do end up there. And Will Scarlet, he's got a beef with Robin. It's very clear.
Very
he doesn't
obvious.
like him. Really hates him. And so he's trying to rally everybody to turn him in, to turn Robin in.
Because that's what this is all about. The money. They need the money. So he's like, well, this is reasonable.
Right.
One guy for the rest of us.
Exactly. And Robin makes a good point. He says that, do you really think the sheriff will give everything back after I'm gone? So we'll get the reward money and our pardons for whatever crimes that they're accused of. But Robin's pretty accurate. He says, no, he's going to stretch your necks one by one, which later he does try to do.
Yes.
As a wedding present, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So Robin gives this little pep talk about freedom, and if you truly believe in your hearts that you are free, I say we can win this. And Bull, one of the merry men, says like, they got armor. It's like even this boy can be taught to find chinks in any suit of armor. And so everybody's trying to figure out what Robin's plan is. And Robin, in short, says that the forest will provide for us. There's food, and there's wood for weapons, and we will teach you how to fight. We will get ready for this and take back what's ours. We'll fight back. And then we get the classic making weapons montage.
Yeah. Oh, man.
We see them in this extended montage building their base camp. They're building bridges and crosswalks and an apparatus to draw water. They're learning to fight, and they learn very fast.
Yes. Like, insanely fast.
Right. They go from the beginning of the montage where when they shoot an arrow, it bounces off of the target.
To the point where literally they shoot the arrow and it's directly bullseye, 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 bullseye. Everything
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. So he must have had a really great teacher.
Wow.
And we see Azim teach them some like melee, hand-to-hand stuff. So they, they're getting their chops. And this is kind of where my attention started to wane a little bit, because there's all these robbing the rich montages, or not montages, but these scenes where Robin and his gang find some rich people on this road to London.
Yes.
It's the only road to London, so he's always going to intercept these rich people there. And so he takes their purses and their valuables, their treasure chests, and starts stockpiling an impressive little collection of gold and other things, and jewels. And then we see Robin and his men giving out food to the poor people. So we've got that overt, he's robbing from the rich and giving to the poor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very in your face. And the sheriff has a nice little interaction here with the scribe. The sheriff doesn't really understand why the people like Robin Hood so much, because Robin Hood steals money from my pocket, forcing me to hurt the public, and they love him for it. And the scribe just nods in agreement. And this is a great little reaction from Alan Rickman. Because he is so reactionary. He's like, okay, these are the punishments. These are the consequences. Cancel the kitchen scraps for lepers and orphans, and no more merciful beheadings. And call off Christmas. Which is an ad-lib from him, the Christmas thing.
That's brilliant.
It's a great. I remember that the most. This scene where he encounters two of his wenches, I guess.
Oh yeah, I got a kick out of this.
Yeah, I did too, and I want to pause here for a second, because I find the logistics of this puzzling. I believe this is at the same time where he discovers his statue that someone has drawn a scar on the cheek of his statue.
Yes,
and he's trying to scrub it off, and then he sees these wenches, and and he's like, "You, 10:30 tonight. You, 10:45. Bring a friend."
So I'm just like, is this a 15-minute session? I mean, what's going on? It's
right, exactly.
Greetings, kids.
Greetings, yeah. Right. It's what are they gonna be doing, Mommy?
Yeah. I know. It's just then that's when you, as a parent, you're just like,
it's office hours. They're gonna have a short peer review session. But I was wondering, so this takes place in the 1100s. How accurate could one tell time in 15-minute increments? So you show up at 10:30. You show up at 10:45. Do they have a sundial that accurate? I mean, it's at night.
That's a good question, though. It's good to think of. Honestly, if I don't think they had that technology. I would have been more like, you, look at the moon. That's when you're going to show up.
Right, show up at dark.
Show up at dark. Right.
Just make it simple.
If you see the sun, that's your turn.
Right, it's not like the wenches like look at their Timex or Casio and like, oh, okay, well, I have 8 minutes to spare before I have to go to the sheriff's quarters. So we're back in Sherwood Forest, or somewhere on the road to London, and Azim and Robin are spying on this little caravan with Friar Tuck, and he's singing his little song, and he's really drunk. And Nottingham's men are accompanying him. Someone asks Azim, how many men are there? He says 20. Someone asks Robin how many men there are. He says 5.
It's like, okay.
Said, I can't count anyway. And it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a good chuckle.
It's a good little chuckle. And Mike McShane is Friar Tuck, also an American actor, but he really hams up this part. He's
beautiful job.
He's having a really great time.
I think out of all the actors I could think of, he just portrayed Friar Tuck. He was that role.
He was. Because you could tell he was really in his moment. I mean, he's a comedic actor anyway, yes. But like he really found some complexity to this character there. Because at times there are some things that happen, especially with Azim, because he is Muslim, that he's very skeptical about, or just outright infuriated about. But I think, yeah, he really pulls off this character very well.
And as a bumbling alcoholic friar, I wouldn't expect some skinny anorexic, walking down the street. I expect this big, huge teddy bear walking down the dirt road, and that's exactly what Michael McShane did. It was beautiful.
Yeah. While he's singing, he's holding
the bottle of beer.
A beer. He's got the beer. He's transporting beer.
It's amazing. It's great.
And he's all sweaty, and he's singing. I don't know.
When was
just
he not
brilliant.
sweating during this film?
He was sweating the whole time, profusely.
It's great.
So Robin and his men ambush them, take the friar and the carriage, and they hide the bodies of Nottingham's men that they've killed, so that when Guy of Gisborne and his little entourage show up, all the bodies are gone. So it must be the ghosts of Sherwood Forest. They've intercepted this treasure that they believe is being trafficked to King Richard's enemies, part of the conspiracy with the Sheriff of Nottingham. And Robin tries to be reasonable with Tuck. He says that these men need someone to minister to them and all this. They could use a good man like you, a good Christian man like you. And Mike McShane, or Friar Tuck, just boots him in the face. And he tries to escape, and then later tries to bite his leg.
Oh my god.
Just like a rabid dog. Robin asks him if he yields. And Tuck's like, I'd rather roast in hell. And starts biting at him. So as punishment, they make Tuck pull the carriage in the place of the horse.
Like a horse, yeah.
He's got
it's not a collar, but a harness. A type
is
of
it like a bridle thing?
Yeah, yeah.
He's got this thing around his neck. He's pulling the.
It's like the guy's got some strength.
Yeah, it's a big.
It's a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's a big wooden carriage with beer on it.
Man.
So he thanks the Lord for teaching him humility and agrees to minister the merry men. Meanwhile, at stately Nottingham Castle, the sheriff is overseeing the production of new weaponry made from Spanish steel, much stronger than their native blades. And Gisborne shows up to give the bad news that the gold was taken, men were killed, and it was Robin of Locksley.
Yes, out of all people.
Of all people. And the sheriff is very disappointed, but doesn't really show it at first.
No.
He's just kind of sympathetic because his cousin's like, I tried. 'Cause we can't allow outlaws to make fools of us. But then he turns and says, I can't allow my lieutenant to fail me.
It's like, uh-oh.
And immediately runs him through with this sword. And there is a tiny bit in the sound design that really sells it, I think, because you can hear the sword puncture his outfit, or his wardrobe. Mm-hmm. I don't really know how to describe it, but it looks to me like he is getting it through the gut.
It was very authentic.
Yeah.
I thought the effects were very professional.
Yeah, and that one in particular was sold very well. And Gisborne's just laying on the ground.
Right.
Everybody's looking like, oh, the sheriff just killed his cousin.
Well, damn. I mean...
And the sheriff says, well, at least I didn't use a spoon.
Yeah.
He always gets the last laugh.
Of course.
So Marion and her friend Sarah, or her, what would we call her? Just
personal assistant.
Yeah, she's
secretary.
Kind of, yeah, like her second in command. Her little, I wouldn't really say bodyguard because Marion is badass.
Yeah. With
his sword. So the merry men catch them on their way. They're looking for Robin Hood, and the merry men are pretty funny here. They have a little banter about, you take the one on the right, I'll take the one on the left. Which one's the one on the left? And like, let's just both jump out and grab him. So Marion takes one, puts a knife to his throat, and says, "Take me to Robin Hood." So they go to the camp, and there's this waterfall, and
jaw-dropping experience here.
Yeah, we get some male rear nudity from afar. Yeah,
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, he's swimming in this beneath this waterfall, and he climbs up onto the rocks and gets dressed. And which this was a stunt ass, by the way. This was not his real bottom. He had a double for this scene for reasons unknown, but
exclusive edition.
Yeah, right. Maybe he was very self-conscious about his behind.
It's maybe it was too pale, or too tan.
Yeah, maybe he had just spent a long weekend in the Keys and had a pretty hardcore tan line.
It's
anything could happen. he didn't want to give it away that he'd been wearing a Speedo on vacay. On holiday. So Robin's excited. He tells Marion, "Oh, I took your advice. I took a bath." They have this little thing. Yeah. And they show back up at camp and gets everybody riled up. "Oh, we've got guests." Then gives Marion the tour. Sarah just I don't know what happens to her. She just goes away for a little bit. Because for the next 10 minutes, we don't really see her at the camp anymore that I remember. They have a little archery demonstration. Wolf is practicing his archery, and Robin says, "That's pretty good. Can you do it in the face of distraction?" And
the ultimate line, because Marion's right next to him.
Right, he wants to show off a little bit. So Wolf is about to take another shot. Robin tickles his ear with a feather, and the shot goes stray.
Yeah.
And everybody gets a little chuckle at Wolf's expense. And then Marion's like, "Can you do it in the face of distraction?" And so he's about to shoot the arrow, and everybody's kind of giggling. So he lowers the bow again. He's like, "Okay, I'm not ready." You can see it on his face. It's almost like they didn't trim this take. It's almost like Kevin Costner's real reaction. Like, "Okay, I'm not ready to do this serious part just yet." And then you see he gets really serious. And he draws that bow. And everybody's shouting and trying to distract him. Marion just gently blows in his ear, and Robin's shot goes stray.
There goes the arrow.
All lighthearted fun. And then we see Friar Tuck, and he is preaching a sermon about grain, and to let us give, glory to our Maker, and give glory to his bounty, by learning about beer.
That was beautiful. I was like, this is why I go to ECU,
it's all about the beer.
All about the beer and grain.
And so Robin takes Marion to the little treasure room and shows her the bounty that they have collected and tells her about this is all the sheriff's doing in trying to get King Richard off the throne.
Right.
Or to get his enemies to turn against him. And at first, Marion thinks no, that the sheriff, he couldn't do that.
There's no way.
There's no way. So they talk a little bit more, and she's got this little dagger that the sheriff had given her earlier for her protection. It's got jewels and everything. And she donates it to the cause, gives it to Robin. And so we see her place that on his little table with all the other jewels and gold stuff. Says, "Oh, you should." He's really turning on the charm. And she's about to leave, and he takes her down like on a rope, this weighted rope, very gently. So that's something to the effect of, "Once someone has seen our camp, that person's not allowed to leave."
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, where are you going? Where are you going?" Marion says, "That's why Sarah and I had asked to be blindfolded, so they wouldn't know the location of the camp." He just says, "Oh, we'll stay for dinner at least." So we've got festivities, we've got dancing. We've got a little confrontation with, this is in the extended cut, with Tuck not liking Azim. He says, "You know nothing of our God." When this little girl is being curious and inquisitive and goes up to Azim and asks, "Did God paint you?" It's a really sweet kind of moment.
I thought it was
And he says, "For certain, because Allah loves wondrous variety." What a great response. Robin is talking to Marion, and this isn't a very memorable conversation to me, but the one thing we do get out of this is some more exposition that Lord Locksley, his father, was involved later on with another woman.
Yes.
So it's just that's planted in there for a little payoff later.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, for foreshadowing, exactly. It really bothers me when this happens in movies, but Marion looks at Robin and says, "Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves." So we get the title. Okay, there it is. There it is. Let's throw that in there.
I'm shook.
Yeah, I'm shook. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Fanny, Little John's wife, and she goes into labor, and Azim says, I can help her."
Well, for a little bit there, I thought she was, something was going to happen. She might die.
It was she was very, very close, yeah. I think. But that was the big holdup, is that Friar Tuck is saying, don't let the Moor touch her or do anything with her. He's like, he will kill her. He sees him as a barbarian,
right,
and savage, but eventually concedes and delivers the baby. There's a great little image of Little John coming out and introducing everybody
Yeah,
to. He's
that
like,
was
my son! He's so proud. And he's got like 7 kids or something.
Oh, it's yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that was like the average trend back then. It's just, you know, your stature was based on the amount of kids you had, kind of thing.
Yeah, and two, that it was almost expected that some of them were going to die.
Right, because of the health conditions, right?
Right, their health conditions and low life expectancy. So Friar Tuck realizes that he was wrong and he wants to make it up to Azim.
And there's only one way he makes it up, right?
Right, invites him out for a drink.
Let's have a drink.
Let's have a drink.
Let's get that beer.
And Azim says, well, thank you, but I don't drink. I can't
Allah
drink.
doesn't permit it.
Allah doesn't permit it. Tuck's just like, well, fine. You talk, I'll drink.
All right. I knew you were going to drink anyways, so might as well.
At one point, Will tries to get in a dance with Marion, and Robin sweeps in and takes her away, but just pisses Will off even more. Next morning, Robin sends Marion off by boat. He's giving Duncan a hard time. He says, take Duncan with you. I fear for his failing health. And a little too loudly, and I'm getting tired of his belly aching. And poor Duncan, he's like, you wish me to leave, Master Robin?
It's just
like he was a joke.
Yeah. It's like this guy is blind, can't help himself.
Yeah. It's like, not a good time to make a joke, Robin. And so he says tells Marion to send word of the goings on to the king. He tells her to do it for her king. She says, no, I'll do it for you.
Boom. I just feel this whole rush of romanticism in my heart. Like, uh-oh. Your guy's about to kiss.
Which becomes the name of the Bryan Adams song. Yes. Everything I do it for you.
Right, rightfully so.
And here's another scene that is not very memorable to me, but Mortiana says, one thing you can do, Sheriff, is to recruit Celts from the north, these hired thugs, to take down this tribe of merry men. We see Marion give a letter to the bishop to send to the king in France and insist that Sarah go with the bishop's emissary, his most trusted emissary.
Yes.
And he doesn't want Sarah to go with him, but Marion insists, and Sarah and the emissary go away, and they're on horseback, they're traveling, and the emissary is fiddling with his saddle, and Sarah's like, what's wrong? And he said, there's something wrong with the saddle or something. And then she bends down to have a look, and he clubs her over the head.
Yeah.
He may have killed her. We don't see her again.
Right.
That I remember.
It's like concussion protocol.
Yeah.
101. It's just, jeez.
There's a cult scene in the extended cut. Don't really love this. It's kind of cheesy. Yeah. You see all those people that are the conspirators of the sheriff, and they're doing their black magic stuff, and the Celts are introduced, and all that sort of thing. But anyhow, we'll just skip on past that. The sheriff must wed Marion to take the throne. And he says in the extended cut that he's all but engaged. He's ready. So Marion is captured by the sheriff's men. Duncan takes off on horseback. He's attacked, but he still makes it to the camp. The Celts and soldiers have followed Duncan, and they ambush the camp. They burn the whole place down. Flaming arrows, all that sort of thing. Big, long action scene.
Right. That was probably the most epic action scene you'd see in this movie.
Yeah. It is like the big... It's
the big fight.
Robin is thought to be dead. After he saves Fanny and the baby from this flaming little hut. The sheriff tells Marion that she's been brought to the castle for her own safety. And of course she is like, why would you think I would be involved with these outlaws? Where did you hear such lies? And he hands her the letter that she wrote saying, by your own hand, my lady. And so the jig is up. She's caught.
Right.
He knows.
Busted.
Yeah, totally busted. The sheriff shows her Robin's burnt medallion. She cries, runs away. The bishop now suggests that a union between her house and Nottingham is a good idea. Search your feelings, my child. Yeah. All that, and like, dude, you've got to pump the brakes a little bit. She just found out that this kid who used to burn her hair as a child, that she kind of likes now and thinks is cute, is dead.
Right.
She's got a lot to process right now.
And now you're forcing this on her,
right?
Jeez.
She could have had. She has every opportunity now to take down both the bishop and the sheriff if she wanted to.
Right.
She might get ambushed and die in the process, but she's
pretty badass.
She's pretty badass. Meanwhile, in Sherwood Forest, everybody's burying the dead. Robin returns with this sweeping music, and he's backlit in the fog.
Oh, and like, there you go, Kevin. There's your moment.
There's your moment. Azim says, Christian, because Christian is his little name for him.
Right.
So he comes back. Now we're in the prison, the sheriff of Nottingham's prison. He is looking for somebody to tell him if Robin is alive or dead. And Will Scarlet has been captured, says that he will kill Robin for the sheriff. He will go and do his bidding, and if Robin Hood discovers he's a traitor, that he'll kill him anyway, and so the sheriff has lost nothing.
Right.
And so in Sherwood, they're burying the dead. Will returns. They see that he's been lashed. He brings a message from Nottingham saying that 10 men are going to be hung in the square tomorrow as a wedding present for Marion.
Like, how romantic.
I know, it's a super romantic gesture. And Robin has this really bad line where he says, did I harm you in another life, Will Scarlet? Where does this intolerable hatred for me come from?
Like, wow, okay, you just went from 0 to 10,000 in deep emotional statements. Okay, Robin.
I have issues with this scene. It doesn't do much for me that we learn that Will Scarlet is Robin's brother, half brother.
It's definitely a filler.
It's a filler. It's really just a way to say, okay, I'm going to be on your side now and not hate you.
It was a good closure for whatever conflict Will had, and I think, granted, they did a good job with doing the whole little kinship there, family, like, oh, they just had a little twitch of hatred because of family issues, blah, 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 and used that excuse as a way of connecting that hatred. So,
and about that hatred, his motives are unclear when he shows back up. It's unclear whether he is going to betray Robin Hood and kill him, or has he used that story as a way of getting away from the sheriff. And we get his muddled accent again, Will Scarlet's muddled accent. I want to know, brother, if you'll stay with us and finish what you started. That didn't even do it justice. It's much worse than that.
It's just,
and man. Robin is just thrilled to have a brother. I have a brother.
Let me embrace you.
He's a bit dim-witted at times, I think,
you
in
can
his
tell
response.
I'm going to be honest about this. Kevin Costner, as old as he looked, I mean, he looked to be about 30s, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so 30s, and even with the reaction of his father dead, because I think it was with that, and then this scene as well, because he hugged Azim the same as he hugged Will, and it was that kind of like a childish, oh, give me some pity.
It was.
Hug. It's, you know.
Yeah.
I need that embracement because I feel alone in the matter of 5 seconds. Kind of embracement.
Because I think just moments prior, he was having a chat with Azim about being stupid and have his intentions led them astray and got everybody killed and all that sort of thing. So,
right.
Yeah, I think he was very vulnerable in that moment.
Right.
Brothers, to the end. We finished this.
Yes.
To the end.
Like, oh, wow. I just feel very motivated right now.
And after this, we come to that scene that you brought up earlier, Joseph, about the cut subplot that the witch is actually not a witch. She has just been spying on the sheriff with holes in the wall.
Right.
And hearing of what's going on and then pretending to
be this black magic artist who knows all things and does all things.
Yes, you know? Exactly. And the sheriff confronts her and she tells him, I made you. I'm your mother. I killed a babe that was to be the sheriff and put you in its place.
Plot twist.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy plot twist. And that my grandchild will sit on the throne. So this is all her doing. She has masterminded this entire thing. And he's beside himself.
Yes. If I want to bring a reference back to Drop Dead Fred here, I mean, talk about a mega bitch. You know?
Oh, sure.
You know, the mega bitch is the witch right now. It's just, wow.
She's been the one pulling the strings and has manipulated who we have, up to this point, thought is a very crafty adversary.
Yes.
He looks like he's having an aneurysm or something.
Yes.
Like something is just winding down in his brain.
Yes, or that of a minor seizure, maybe, or just some type
It's
of...
approaching, yeah. We're on the cusp of a seizure. So the merry men are taking black powder and they're packing it into these barrels that they're going to take to Nottingham Castle for the hanging. So we go through the security checkpoint of the castle. No blades, no bows, leave your weapons here. And people are just dropping their swords in a big pile by the entrance. Tuck rolls in on his wagon. He's bringing the beer.
Of course he's got the beer.
He's bringing the beer. And he's got what we find out is Azim wrapped up in a shawl or gauze. Or he looks kind of like the mummy or something, but he's pretending to be a leper.
Right.
And then Robin Hood strolls in his Palpatine cloak, and he finds this steaming pile of horse shit.
And I was like, wow, that's fresh.
I thought it is fresh. In fact, I was thinking about this. Not only is this movie from 1991 like our last episode movie, Drop Dead Fred, which if you haven't listened to at this point, go check it out. It's a great episode. But there's one more thing in common, is the smearing of animal feces. Because before we had Fred wiping dog shit on this clean carpet, and here we have Robin Hood wiping horse shit, steaming like a lean cuisine fresh out of the microwave.
Yes. I literally thought it was a meal on the side of the road. I didn't know what was going on.
I didn't know for maybe 10 years what this was. What he picked up this ball and just started rubbing it on his cloak.
Like, is there a stove nearby where we can use some skillets? It's just amazing.
But he uses this as a way to get into the castle without too much attention. He does encounter a guard who accosts him, and he says, "Oh, pardon my blindness, I'm old." And he's doing that phony British accent. Right. "Please, sir, don't hurt me." So he is pushed on through. He's like, "Get out of here." So he goes on to the castle. Tuck and Azim are planting these barrels of black powder near the gallows. And there's a funny exchange here where one of the soldiers says, "What is this? Get this stuff out of here." And Tuck says to Azim in disguise, "Oh, we shall take our things, my leprous friend, and depart. Is this your finger?" And he bends down and picks something. And he's like, "Well, he's just leaving parts of himself all over England."
I thought that was a nice little smooth.
It was good. So Little John and Fanny get together. They drop some swords down to Bull and I think Will Scarlet. Everyone's all riled up for the hanging. Everyone's excited. The prisoners are brought out and strung up, and we see Will Scarlet, and Wolf is being brought out as a prisoner to be hanged, and sees Will, and Will's shaking his head like, "No, don't rat me out, don't rat me out." And Wolf tackles him, and of course that gets everybody's attention, and the sheriff's like, "Bring him here." And oh, the turncoat. Yeah. And Will Scarlet can't lie. His way out of a paper bag.
No.
I found his lair, but he was already dead." "You sure? You saw Hood's body?" "No, I saw a grave." And the guard's like, "We found this on him." The sword. The sheriff's just string him up with the others. Yeah, everybody's excited. But there's nowhere to hang him, so just as Azim is about to shoot a flaming arrow at this barrel of black powder by the gallows, the executioner straps or ties Will Scarlet to this barrel. So a little kink in the plans.
Plan B here.
Plan B. And I always remember this. The executioner, after he ties up Will Scarlet, he leans down and says, "There's always room for one more." And this glob of spit rolls out of his cheek.
I thought that was hilarious.
Over Will Scarlet's cheek. Ooh.
Like, I imagine how it felt filming that scene and how many times they could have done it or would have done it. Just, the whole spit.
Yeah, so was that intentional or not?
Right.
I'm hoping it wasn't, because that was a pleasant surprise. So we got a drum roll, the hanging start with Wolf. Robin frees him, shoots an arrow. Then he kills the executioner who's holding the axe above his head. He's about to swing it at Will. And then Robin shoots the slow-mo flaming arrow at his head.
What an epic scene for a 1990s film, just...
Oh, yeah. And it's only like a second or two long, but he's got flames behind him. It's very dramatic.
Beautiful.
And the sheriff is trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and one of his people was like, "Is this your idea of control?" And "Shut up, you twit!" Azim gives a pep talk. He's pretty much the same talk that Robin had given in Sherwood. He says, "To be free, join us now. Join Robin Hood. Freedom!" And then Mel Gibson shows up from Braveheart.
We're like even from The Patriot.
The Patriot,
Just the whole little
pep talk
counterattack fight scene. It's beautiful.
The sheriff takes off with Marion to the chapel and asks for the bishop to be brought there. Will catapults Azim and Robin over a wall, and he gives that line that I just recently understood what he said. He says, "Fuck me, he cleared it." And he, for the record, if you didn't understand what I said, it's he cleared it, as in he cleared the wall. But it didn't register to me. So we come face to face with the witch, or Marion does, and the sheriff is telling the bishop to marry us. And the witch is all excited. She's like, you must take her now. She will give us a son. And he's like, "That's my wife, crone."
I laughed so hard.
And I like that he is yelling at her, saying that I won't take her until we're properly wed.
Right.
Because he's never had anything pure in his life, and we stop interfering.
It's like, shut up, witch.
And so the bishop gets things going. He's going through the whole spiel, and then this attempted rape ensues over the next few minutes. And why is Marion not defending herself?
I know.
Why doesn't she take a sword?
Right.
She was a worthy opponent for
probably just as strong as the sheriff was. You can counterattack this.
Right. And so Azim tries to break the door down with the sheriff's statue. The witch comes along, stabs him in the leg, and then she runs into his spear and just gets it right in the gut. Robin takes a dramatic entrance and swings in to the chapel by a rope, breaking the window.
Miraculously.
Swings in, and the sheriff's like, "We've just been married."
Yeah.
I've got her now. And so then we have the sword fight confrontation between Robin and the sheriff brings out Lord Locksley's sword, this giant sword, and says, "This is your father's sword, and appropriate, don't you think, that I now use it to send you to meet him?" And then, in classic Locksley style, makes a dumb decision. He says, "I will never fear my father's sword," and starts to lay his sword down. And the sheriff's just like, okay, I'll take a moment, and throws his sword up and catches Robin in the chin. And since Robin had cut him on the cheek, now he cuts him on the chin. He says, "Now we're even."
Yeah.
It was just another line that was so embedded in the mix, I didn't know what he said. There's a fight. It's sword fighting. And what else can we say about it? There's a shot where the sheriff gets some of his hair taken off. I think Robin, he makes a comment about something that, if necessary, I'll take you a piece at a time.
Right. Yeah. It's okay.
And then the sheriff steals a kiss from Marion. She takes a candle and dumps the wax on his chest. And then we cut to the bishop. He's packing up. He's getting ready to go.
He's going to Timbuktu. He's like,
And Tuck, peace out. But Tuck surprises him. It's like, "You sold your soul to Satan, your grace." And
such a badass scene from Ty.
It's good because
so nice.
You don't know really how he's going to react.
Right.
He says, or the bishop says, "You would not strike a fellow man of the cloth." And
right.
Tuck's like, "No, I'll help you pack for your journey. You're going to need lots of gold." And he just starts dumping stuff into the bishop's arms and says, "And here's 30 pieces of silver to pay the devil on your way to hell."
It just kicks him out the window.
That is one of the most badass scenes.
Oh, yes.
And I'm glad that Tuck gets it. Like, it's just his little winning moment.
He deserved that line, and it was a good moment.
We get more sword fighting, and I'm falling asleep. Oh, and then the moment comes where Robin's sword breaks. The sheriff has him now. He's getting ready. He's just, I guess, savoring the moment, like every villain usually does before they're about to kill the protagonist. He's like, "Get ready." And he raises the sword. Then Robin quickly grabs the dagger given to him by Marion, that was given to her by the sheriff.
Ironic. Oh my goodness.
Sticks it into his heart. The sheriff starts drooling. He pulls the dagger out. He staggers. He falls dead. And then, surprise, the witch returns. Ah! And then Azim takes this massive sword, and you just hear it like through the air, and it
was epic.
It was, and when it gets her in the gut again or in the heart, wherever. Yeah, it makes this squishy sound that she falls back, and you see it move a little bit in her gut with the weight.
I thought that was amazing,
and it just that shifting squishy sound. That
was a good effect.
It really sold it.
Priceless.
So the damsel in distress. The damsel in distress has been saved. The witch Ding Dong, the witch is dead.
Yeah.
And then we have the return of the king.
Oh my god.
So as Robin and Marion are getting married by Tuck, King Richard returns, and it's played by Sean Connery.
Of course.
In this cameo role, which he had previously played Robin Hood in a 70s movie, kind of as Robin and Marion. He says, "I will not allow this wedding to proceed unless but permitted to give the bride away."
Yeah, the proper blessing.
Yeah, right, yeah. And
that's great.
And all that's fine and dandy. And Tuck says, "You can kiss the bride," to which Robin Hood says, "I know that." And then there's a big celebration. Everybody's hugging. Will Scarlett and Azim are hugging. They're laughing. Everybody is so joyful. There's doves released into the air. And then the last shot of the movie is Tuck leans in, breaks the fourth wall, tells the audience, "Get out of it. We waste good celebration time."
Yes.
And so he's ready to start drinking. And then the end credits is an extended version of "Everything I Do It For You" by Bryan Adams. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. This music video, basically.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It wasn't
enjoyable.
Common, especially in the days of video, that you got that little music video at the end of the movie.
Right. I loved how they ended it with Tuck saying those words. You know, I just got that little, like we talked about, the chuckle out of all people to end the movie. It deserved to be him with "We Waste Good Celebration Time." It was just, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
What did you like? What did you didn't like about this movie?
I liked the acting most of all done by Alan Rickman. I enjoyed his role the most in this movie with how he portrayed his role, lived his character to 110%. It was just very captivating, entertaining, more comical than suspicious. You know, his voice is a voice that is memorable because you always know that it's him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was beautifully done, and I loved his facial expressions. You know, I always preach about acting in the manner of expressions, how to express yourself, how your audience is going to portray that expression, right?
Yeah.
And he really pounded it out. I mean, you know, he with the whole Carolina Panthers keep pounding drum, he just kept pounding that, you know, sort of let me live my character. And understandably, Kevin Costner is Kevin Costner, you know, the big bright star, but at the same time, I don't think this show was the same without Alan Rickman.
Oh, absolutely not. He, for me, stole the show. He was more memorable than any other character in the film.
Yes.
And those are the scenes that, even if the movie is on and I'm busy, when he comes on screen, I pay attention. He commands my attention.
Right.
So I really like that. I didn't like the fact that this movie was so long.
It was 2.5 hours, I believe.
Yeah, the extended cut, 2.5 hours. And I think 15 minutes of that was restored footage.
Wow.
From that had been deleted previously. But yeah, it was kind of a drag. I will confess, and I told Joseph this before we started recording the podcast today, is I've seen this movie many times before, but I was trying to get in this movie for some notes, and I watched it at double speed. I played it back at twice the speed, which was entertaining in its own way, but there were scenes that even at that speed dragged for me. And so the pacing was a little off, and I think there were even some issues in the editing process that things were cut that didn't need to be cut. There were things added that didn't need to be added. And there was a lot of issues with who had control over Final Cut.
Right.
And I think that ultimately played out on the screen. Do we think this movie still has value today?
Oh yeah. I am in full support for giving this movie credit and value even today. And, you know, yeah, I'm a music nerd. But I do believe, Brandon, I do believe that this has significance because of not just the acting, but from what Michael Kamen did for this movie.
Absolutely. The music really holds up. It holds up more than the film itself, I think. It really has such an emotional weight to it, and it embodies that sense of adventure that this movie really represents, and I think that if anything, still is timeless.
Right. I mean, can we add that this film, because of its music, got the nominee for Academy Awards in 1992.
Oh, nice.
The Golden Globes in 1992. The Grammys. I mean, this was a very significant impact for the cinematic and composition industry during that time in Hollywood. It was huge.
Yeah, and no one really talks about Michael Kamen anymore. He's not a household name like John Williams or Danny Elfman or
Hans Zimmer. Those guys.
Alan Silvestri. And so I think he's definitely one that everybody should go check out. He did this, he did Die Hard. The other films escape me at the moment.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon.
The whole series.
So his name is all over. His fingers, or his notes are all over this. His imprint. So that's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Wow.
That I know we kind of rushed through it, but this was a damn long movie.
Yes.
So we had a lot to cover. So thank you for sticking with us this long. Next week, I'm really excited about next week's episode.
It's going to be lit.
We'll soon dig into a stellar pairing of Stephen King and John Carpenter. It's The Killer Car with a Jealous Streak, called Christine, from 1983. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and this 58 Plymouth Fury is no exception.
Oh,
it's
man.
Gonna
what
be
a classic.
It's going to be a wild ride. If you have questions for us or have feedback on the show, send them our way at VericonVideo@gmail.com. You can also leave a message for us at the Vericon Video hotline at 312-620-5560. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Vericon Video. Drop us a line and let us know what you think of the show. If you want to support the show and help spread the word about Vericon Video, we have some awesome t-shirts and some stickers and some other cool stuff at teepublic.com. That's T-E-E public.com. And be sure to check us out on Patreon, where listeners like you can support the show, help us grow as a podcast, and help us to create better content for you. Patreon is a platform where people can join artists of all kinds, including podcasters, in bringing their content to life while getting some rewards like bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and even a chance to join us on the show for an episode. You can find out more at www.patreon.com/VericonVideo. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and we will see you next week to chat about another exciting movie from the rental era. So long, everybody.
Peace out, guys.
Goodbye, Vietnam! That's right. I'm history. I'm out of here. I got the lucky ticket home, baby.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Jenny.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle. Goodbye.
Do take good care of yourself.
What is this, your farewell speech? Going home. Have a good trip.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I have to go.
Adieu, auf Wiedersehen, Gesundheit.